Kennedy here, talking about coronavirus.
Who is not? I am not an expert. Nobody is. That's the reason they call it novel. A novel
Yeah.
coronavirus.
Right.
So coronaviruses have been known about for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
They're a group of viruses. It's not just one thing.
Mm-hmm.
However, people are not that do not study microbiology usually don't come across that word, so it scares them. For example, 25% of the common cold, as far as we can remember, is caused by a certain type of coronavirus. So it's not a new thing. Even though it's called novel, it's just because it's novel to science. It has a genome that has been decrypted. So we know the ATCG, the DNA makeup, in other words, of the coronavirus, the one that's affecting us now. And we know quite a bit about how it has transmitted from bat to pangolin to human. So it jumps species as it evolves. That is, Christians would hate hearing that, but it's true. The DNA of the coronavirus, once it infects a certain individual being, slightly changes, and sometimes those changes can cause it to be
my bad.
Cause humans to have it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm creating a word for right now. Contract.
Mm-hmm.
Contract. That's the word. So this is happening all the time. It's been happening ever since the beginning of time. If there ever was a beginning of time, which is another subject altogether.
Mm-hmm.
But this is how we deal with it right now.
Mm-hmm.
We wash our hands with soap and water, which destroys the fatty membrane, and the COVID is protected by, and it literally melts. It just it self-destructs. Soap and water is your best friend. Okay? If you don't have access to soap and water, Purell or any sort of alcohol-based what's the word I'm looking for? Topical
hand sanitizer, like antibacterial.
Antimicrobial, actually, because a virus is not a bacteria.
Right, and people don't understand that either. They don't really know what's the difference between
people don't understand that modern biologists do not consider a virus to be a living organism. And I could make a whole tape about this. But my personal belief, if you care,
yes,
is that everything is alive, and it's all one, and it's all part of something. Some people call that God. Some people call it other names. To me, it's so large and infinite. Large and infinite. That's a funny word combination. It's so extreme that we just don't have the physical capacity to understand what is happening in life in general, or even the streets, the little pebbles in the concrete are moving. They're moving.
guess what I read? This is sort of like unrelated, but it's like the only science that I was really majorly absorbed by. But okay, we use the word colloquially creep, and it could mean to crawl. And it's Norwegian, I think, or Norse, an old Norse word, creep. But creep has a scientific meaning, and creep, as I remember, creep is the amount of change and sort of like decay on a molecular level as it would affect like industrial buildings. Like if you have a bridge, you have everything hoisted and joisted or whatever, you're going to have some deterioration of the actual substance, and it's a factor. No, it's just a factor of decay as it is estimated by engineers. But creep is a great concept word.
Entropy.
Entropy means that the glass on your table, if it gets knocked off your table and hits the floor, it's going to shatter. It's not going to rearrange itself and climb back onto the table as a glass. That's what's called the arrow of time. So there are a few arrows of time. One is entropy, which means that things go from a state of order to a state of disorder. The other is that heat travels towards cold, not the other way around. So, a lot of Christians, for example, will try to debate about. They'll try to tell you that entropy doesn't exist because, well, hey, look, we came from evolution says that we came from microorganisms into these complex beings that can think and talk and do what we're doing right now. Well, what they're failing to understand on a physics level is that if you put energy into an equation, it will grow. If you leave it alone, it will decay. So that is why entropy is so important in physics. So if you plant a seed in the ground, it's already the odds of it growing are against it. I mean, you're sticking a seed in the dirt, but if that seed receives the nutrients from the earth, from the actual dirt, which we consider dirty or unclean, is actually life. In combination with sunlight and carbon dioxide, they can break through that barrier of earth and actually become a plant, which is, by any biologist's explanation, a living organism. Plants are alive. That's what we believe now as biologists, that plants are alive. I don't think that many people would say they're not. Many people say rocks aren't alive. I have a different opinion, which I expressed earlier.
Hey Dan, not to interrupt, but do you feel like talking about the emotional component of the coronavirus? Like, there's the science and what we know and what we're trying to find out. But is there any words of wisdom or coping skills you want to offer?
Okay. You might have just asked the right question. I have, for example, extreme anxiety disorders that include panic disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, and generalized anxiety disorder. That is what, at least in the psychiatric realm,
true scientist, a true seeker doesn't start out knowing something. They start out knowing nothing, and they search for answers, and they don't expect anything. That is a true scientific perspective. It's violated often, but through things like peer-reviewed articles from especially the two magazines in America, Science, it's called, and Nature. Those, if you're going to get an article that says something about the nature of nature, if you will, you have to jump through a lot of hoops, and you have to have a lot of people that are very intelligent, that understand the mechanics of these things before you ever can expect to get an article produced in one of those magazines. Therefore, to subscribe to a magazine like that costs hundreds of dollars a year. That's another subject altogether. Keeping the truth behind money. But if you even get a little shortened version that's from one of those magazines, you can take it, and you can find it on Google. You can take that as being what we know so far, basically as Homo sapiens, variety sapiens.
So, oh gosh, you know me, I don't want to stick to one subject. I'm already on some discursive. I'm just
Go.
no. I just have some problems with Twitter. I'm not sure where I want it to be, but it's where I live 24/7. I think
Twitter sucks.
I'm starting to think it's as bad as Craigslist, MySpace, and Facebook all put together.
Yep.
I really don't like it. Yeah.
Fuck them. Just delete them and don't listen to them. Here's a good example. Here's the prime example of why Twitter sucks. Donald Trump.
That, yeah.
If we have a president that is using a program like Twitter to express serious issues, what the? If you listen to that, you're an idiot. I mean, if you believe what he's saying, you're an idiot. It's that simple. Donald Trump doesn't know shit. This is what I'm trying to say.
Well,
He didn't go to MIT. He was never a doctor. He failed miserably.
I know some stupid idiots with doctorates, so don't fall for everything like that. Oh God, this is
No. There are many serious people who are pursuing doctorates, and in order to do so, it's
not naming any names here. You know who you are.
Well, you have to know what you're talking about, and you have to have been in that environment and respected and understood and peer reviewed. That's the most important phrase. Peer reviewed. If your article is not peer reviewed, then it is questionable.
So one of the wonderful things I was studying recently, not so much coronavirus related, was the dirty money that Jeffrey Epstein was pumping into MIT, and the reaction that the cashola beneficiaries were having in terms of like abrogating their ethical requirements, and that was quite interesting actually. And I think it's always interesting when someone tries to bust a hole in the big money that pumps into academia, but obviously it's kind of an old story.
Academia is
Mm.
due to the coronavirus. Um, as far as anything other, in speaking of political things, don't ask me.
So emotionally, coronavirus, like I mean, I've had waves of anxiety that were so severe that I felt like I couldn't breathe. And then I'm like, well, is this anxiety or is this coronavirus or am I gonna die? And then you get in that like I'm gonna die panic mode.
I felt that way this morning,
Yeah.
actually.
Well, do you want
This
to talk?
very morning.
Do you want to talk about the significant death in Astoria? I think that's something worth talking about. Not too many people know what happens in Clatsop County.
Columbia Memorial Hospital, as of 10 o'clock this morning, Pacific time, has not found even one positive coronavirus result. The reason I know that is because my friend Charlie, who, if you know him, he died.
Yeah, Charlie. And his spouse was the woman who died, and it was kind of like a big media event. It was in the Daily Historian that she had succumbed.
Right. It woke people up to the fact that homeless people in the winter, if they're elderly, have a very big problem on their hands.
Yeah.
And we're not taking care of it as a country. We just we let them in the emergency room, and then we kick them right out.
Yeah.
It's because of bias, for example. Long-haired males, or people that use cannabis. I am one of those as well. I actually do have a condition called trigeminal neuralgia that is kept in check by cannabidiol, which is CBD, and it's an anti-epileptic. So we have those things to think about. The world has not stopped rotating because the coronavirus has mutated from bat to possibly pangolin to possibly human.
Yeah.
So everything else is still going on, and yet now all of a sudden it seems like coronavirus is that's what's happening on planet Earth. Well, hey, wake up. There are a lot. You have more chance of dying from walking across the street than you do from dying from coronavirus. People are becoming overly, well, since I have a diagnosis of this, I can say with some confidence they have an anxiety disorder. This has caused a lot of people to have anxiety disorders, including obsessive compulsive disorder, which actually, at this point in time, my personal belief and other doctors is a good thing. Wash your hands often. Do not touch your face. If you do, immediately wash your hands. It's simple. The coronavirus has been labeled as a WIMP. 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 In other words, it doesn't take much to destroy. You can't kill it because it's not alive, according to biologists, but you can destroy it. anxiety part of it, I interact with some elderly people, and I interact with a lot of people that smoke cigarettes, um, and or
Mm-hmm.
homeless and smokers. Those that population, that portion of the population that we have is more prone to infection. They're beautiful people. In fact, I think they're the most beautiful people.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't smoke cigarettes either.
Way to go! Did you ever smoke? I can't remember if you smoked or not.
I did at one time.
Yeah.
Or
Way to
a couple
go.
times in my life. You know,
Yeah.
I'm not so young anymore. But don't smoke. Don't stay in a confined room with a confirmed COVID case
Mm-hmm.
without protection.
Yeah.
That's as simple as it is.
Mm-hmm.
You can go outside, you can walk around. Just if you touch something, don't touch your eyes or your nose
Mm-hmm.
or your mouth. Those are orifices that lead to the internal part of the body, and every what we would call germs in
Colloquially.
thank you.
Yes.
Okay, they spread that way, mucous membranes. So keep your mucous membranes away from your hands, especially if you eat. That's one of the things that masks will help you do. Wearing a mask will not prevent you from getting coronavirus or SARS-2,
Mm-hmm.
as it's actually its real name. COVID is the name of the disease that is caused by SARS-2. A lot of people don't understand the difference. But just wash your freaking hands. If you have to, go to the liquor store, get some Everclear,
Mm-hmm.
and put it on your fingers before you eat.
Hey Dan, let's wrap this one up and take a little break.
Okay.